So all the frets are in. I thought I'd show you this before I do the edge dress. Of course, you can see that neck pickup cavity was chewed out by a beaver or something. Anyway, luckily there's pickguard to hide all that. We've got some Vineham pickups that the customer ordered from Newfoundland, Canada. But we'll get to those electronics later. We're going to finish up with the fretwork first. Alright, we'll heat up that nut, take it out, and then finish up the fretwork, and then we're going to put it all together. So our final tuning check. I do have my mutes in here to isolate the fundamental. I guess 5 o'clock rush hour wasn't a good choice. One thing about this ClearTune tuner is it picks up all of the ambient noise, including me speaking, the traffic going by on the street, but it is pretty accurate. That's the traffic. So with the original Wilkinson saddles, and I do this routinely with this type of saddle, the three-way saddle for 6 strings. Starting with the bass saddle, I brought it back as far as I could until that low E was intonated. And then I ended up filing the A string to get rid of that 5 cents of sharpness. With the middle saddle, I adjusted it so the G was perfectly in tune, and then filed back the D to get rid of that 8 cents of sharpness. And as you can see, top saddle, I lined up the B and then filed out the high E to get that to line up, and that's how we got all 6 strings to line up with those 3 saddles. This is the new Vineham bridge pickup and Vineham neck pickup, and you'll hear that when I plug it in the house in a second. These were the values of the original nut. So in other words, when I fretted the 12th fret note and played the open string, all of these open strings played sharp, so 2 cents on the low E, 6 cents on the A, and I'll bring you in for a look at that compensated nut in a second to show you what I did to correct all this. 2 cents, 6 cents, 3 cents, 2 cents, 4 cents on the B, 2 cents on the E. Of course, now all 6 strings, all of the frets, all of the notes are perfectly in tune, and you'll hear that when I take it into the studio and plug it in. 2 new potentiometers, new switch, new capacitor, new input jack, and I think that pretty well wraps it up for parts, and of course new strings. So let's just take a quick look at the nut, then I'll bring it in the house and you can actually hear this guitar. So these are the final values for the compensated nut, 10 to 46 at concert pitch. And of course, I forgot to mention, all new frets. I need to talk a little bit about this fret job. Any vintage Fender with a maple fingerboard, it's like doing 3 fret jobs. Let me explain why. For those of you who are regular followers of my channel, you've heard me say this a few hundred times. Typically, when you remove the frets on a fingerboard, it puts you in the driver's seat as far as correcting any inconsistencies along the lay of the neck before you put the new frets in. But it's a whole different story with a maple fingerboard, because first of all these wear marks in the fingerboard, nobody ever wants you to touch those. That's the sort of mojo, and it's just the industry, it's the way it is. So correcting the fingerboard, in other words sanding the fingerboard, is completely out of the question. Now the other thing is, these early Fenders have, like this one, a very high radius, which tends to be a problem when you're kind of bending ultra high notes. The only way to lower that radius a little bit, and not that much, but a little bit to make a difference, is I take it out of the real estate of the frets. So as I'm filing, I file from center and then move to the outside. So when I'm leveling the frets, final leveling, I do actually load the truss rod. And this is a very tricky part of this whole maple fingerboard thing. I do load the truss rod, make contact, give it about an extra third of a turn. Now what happens is that actually puts the neck into a very slight back bow. So I need to take down the center of the neck, and I check it as I go with the 4-inch and 10-inch straight edges to get that center portion dead level, and then I go full length and then double check it with a full length straight edge. Once we've got the crowns of the frets along the trajectory of the string path from the first fret to the last, once that's accomplished, then I put the strings on and I back off that truss rod, and that gives me that little tiny bit of relief that allows you to make the guitar playable. And that's how I accomplish this. The thing plays great, and you'll hear I do all kinds of bends, no issue at all. And of course, as you saw, the intonation is perfect. Better still, you'll hear how perfect the intonation is when we plug it into the house. These Vineham pickups, I don't have an endorsement with this guy or anything, but I got to tell you, I'm very impressed. It's not the first time I've used these. I dropped a set of P90s into a Les Paul that a customer had brought with him to install. They also were very nice pickups. Enough talk, let's go in, plug this thing in. We finally get to hear it. Finally get to play it.